The reading for the sermon this morning is taken from Poem of the Man God, Volume 5. And this starts off when the apostles are all in this house. I'm not exactly sure where this house is. It was the house where they had the Last Supper. Prior to this, the 10 of the apostles, of course Judas has died at this point, had experienced Jesus showing up amidst them, just sort of materialized. Thomas wasn't there. And now Thomas, they've tried to locate him and they're about to find him. So there's a knock at the main door. They all become silent and listen. They utter an "oh" of surprise when they see Elias come into the hall with Thomas. Such a strange Thomas that he seems another person. His companions crowd around him, shouting their joy. "Do you know that he was risen and he is coming back, that he has come back? And he's waiting for you so that he may come back?" "Yes, also Elias told me, but I do not believe it. I believe what I see. I see that it is the end for us. I see that we are all scattered. I see that there is not even a known sepulchre where we can mourn over his death. I see that the Sanhedrin wants to get rid of both their accomplice, whose burial they have decreed at the foot of the olive tree where he hanged himself, as if he were a filthy animal, and of the followers of the Nazarene. On Friday I was stopped at the gates, and they said to me, 'Were you one of his followers as well? He is dead now. Go back to beating gold.' And I ran away. 'Where? We have looked for you everywhere.' 'Where? I went towards the house of my sister at Ramah, but I did not dare to go inside because I did not want to be reproached by a woman. So I wandered around Judean mountains, and yesterday I ended up at Bethlehem, in his grotto. How much I wept! I fell asleep among the ruins, and Elias, who has come there too, I do not know why, found me." "Why?" Elias says, "because in the hours of too great a joy or too great a sorrow, one goes where God is more felt. Many a time in these past years I have gone there by night like a thief, to feel my soul being caressed by the remembrance of his cries. And then I would run away at sunrise in order not to be stoned. But I was already comforted. Now I went there to say to that place, 'I am happy,' and to take what I can from it. That is what we have decided. We want to preach his faith, and the strength to do so will be given to us by a bit of that wall, by a handful of that soil, by a splinter of those poles. We are not holy as to dare to take the earth of Calvary." "You are right, Elias. We shall have to do that as well, but we will." "But Thomas?" "Thomas slept and wept. I said to him, 'Wake up and stop weeping. He has risen.' He would not believe me. But I insisted so much that I convinced him. So here he is. He is here now with you, and I will go away. I will join my companions who are going to Galilee. Peace to you." Elias goes away. "Thomas, he has risen, I tell you. He was with us. He ate some food. He spoke. He blessed us. He forgave us. He has given us the power to forgive. Why did you not come before?" Thomas does not shake off his dejection. He stubbornly shakes his head. "I do not believe. You have seen a ghost. You are all mad, the women first of all. A dead man does not rise by himself. A man, no, but he is God. Do you not believe that? Yes, I believe that he is God, but just because I believe that, I think and say that, no matter how good he is, he cannot be so good to the extent of coming among those who have loved him so little. And I say that, however humble he may be, he must have had enough of humiliating himself in our filthy flesh. No, he certainly is triumphant in heaven, and perhaps he may appear as a spirit, I say perhaps. We do not deserve even that, but risen in flesh and bones? No, I do not believe it. But we have kissed him. We have seen him eat. We have heard his voice. We have felt his hand. We have seen his wounds. Nothing. I do not believe it. I cannot. I should see in order to believe. If I do not see the holes of the nails in his hands, and I do not put my finger into them, if I do not touch the wounds of his feet, and if I do not put my hand where the lance opened his chest, I will not believe. I am not a child or a woman. I want evidence. I reject what my reason cannot accept, and I cannot accept your word. But Thomas, do you think that we want to deceive you? No, my poor fellows, on the contrary, may you be blessed, since you are so kind as to wish to guide me to that peace that you have succeeded in giving yourselves through this illusion of yours. But I do not believe in his resurrection. Are you not afraid of being punished by him? He hears and sees everything, you know. I ask him to convince me. I am gifted with reason, and I make use of it. Let him, the master of human reason, revise mine if it has been led astray. But reason, he said so, is free. All the more reason for not making it the slave of a collective suggestion. I love you and I love the Lord. I will serve him as best I can, and I will stay with you to help you serve him. I will preach his doctrine, but I can only believe by seeing. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to where Jesus shows up and Thomas is there. So now the 11 of them are together in the house again. It's about a week later. Jesus has appeared in a very strange manner. The central part of the wall behind the apostles sitting at the table, a wall of all of one piece except for the little door in the corner, brightens up at about 1 meter from the floor with a feeble phosphoric light like that shed by certain little pictures which are luminous only in the dark at night. The light, about 2 meters high, is oval like a niche. From the brilliancy, as if he were advancing from behind veils of luminous mist, Jesus emerges with increasing neatness. I do not know whether I have made myself understood. His body seems to flow through the thickness of the wall, which does not open. It remains compact, but the body passes just the same. Light seems to be the first emanation of his body, the announcement of his approach. The body at first consists of soft lines of light, as in heaven I see the Father and the holy angels, immaterial. Then it becomes more and more material, taking the aspect of a real body in everything, that of his divine, glorified body. It has taken me a long time to describe this, but it happened in just a few seconds. Jesus is dressed in white, as when he rose and appeared to his mother. He is most handsome, loving, and smiling. He is standing with his arms along the sides of his body, a little detached from it, but with his hands towards the floor, the palms towards the apostles. The 2 wounds of his hands are like 2 diamond stars, from which 2 very bright beams issue. I do not see his feet, they are covered by his tunic, or his chest. But from the fabric of his garment, which is not an earthly one, light emanates where the divine wounds are concealed. At the beginning, Jesus seems to be nothing but a body of lunar whiteness. Later, when it materializes, appearing outside the halo of light, his hair, eyes, skin have their natural colors. In short, it is Jesus, but looking more solemn now that he has risen. John sees him when he is already like that. Nobody else has become aware of the apparition. John jumps to his feet, dropping the plate of little round cheeses on the table, and laying his hands on the edge of the table, he bends a little towards it sideways, as if he were attracted by a magnet. And in a low, subdued voice, he utters an intensely expressive, "Oh." The others who had raised their heads from their plates at the noisy fall of the plate of the cheese and at John's start had looked at him with astonishment. When they see his ecstatic posture, look in the same direction as he is looking. They turn their heads or they turn around according to their position with respect to the Master, and they see Jesus. They all stand up, deeply moved and happy, and they rush towards him, as he, smiling more brightly, advances towards them, walking now on the floor like all mortals. Jesus, who previously looked fixedly only at John, and I think that the latter turned around because he felt attracted by that glance that caressed him, looks at all of them and he says, "Peace to you." They are all now around him, some of them on their knees at his feet, and among them there is Peter with John. And John even kisses the hem of his tunic and presses it to his face as if he wished to be caressed by it. Some farther back standing, but stooping in a respectful manner. The only one who has remained a little farther away, somewhat embarrassed, is Thomas. He is on his knees near the table, but he dare not come forward. On the contrary, he seems to be trying to hide behind the corner of the table. Jesus, while stretching out his hands to be kissed, the apostles seek them with holy eagerness, looks around at the lowered heads as if he were looking for the 11th. He's actually seen him from the very beginning, and he is behaving so only to give Thomas a time to pluck up courage and to come forward. When he sees that the incredulous apostle dare not do so, ashamed as he is of his lack of faith, he calls him, "Thomas, come here." Thomas raises his head, embarrassed, almost in tears, but he dare not go. He lowers his head again. Jesus takes a few steps towards him and repeats, "Come here, Thomas." Jesus' voice is more authoritative than the first time. Thomas stands up reluctantly, abashed, and goes towards Jesus. "Here is the man who does not believe unless he sees," exclaims Jesus. But in his voice there is the smile of forgiveness. Thomas feels that. He dares to look at Jesus and sees that he is really smiling, so he musters up the courage and he walks faster. "Come here, quite close to me. Look, put your finger, if it is not sufficient for you to look, into the wounds of your master." Jesus has stretched his hands out, then he has opened his tunic on his chest, uncovering the gash on his side. No light emanates now from the wound. It no longer emanates since he began to walk like a mortal man. But when he came out of the halo of lunar light, the wounds now appear in their bloody reality, two irregular holes, the left one of which extends as far as the thumb, and they pierce a wrist and a palm at its base, a long gash which is in the upper part, lightly curved like a circumflex accent on his side. Thomas trembles, but does not touch. He moves his lips, but he is not able to speak clearly. "Give me your hand, Thomas," Jesus says so kindly. And with his right hand he takes the right one of the apostle. He grasps his forefinger and takes it towards the whole of his left hand. He thrusts it well into it, to make him feel that his palm has been pierced. And then from his hand he takes it to his side. Now he grasps the forefingers of Thomas at their base, the metacarpus, and puts those four big fingers into the gash at his side, making them go in deeply, not limiting himself to leaning them against its edge, and he holds them there, looking fixedly at Thomas, a severe yet kind look, while he continues to say, "Put your finger here, put your fingers and also your hand, if you wish so, into my side, and do not doubt, but believe." This is what he says while doing what I have said. Thomas, it would appear that the closeness of the divine heart, which he almost touches, has communicated courage to him, succeeds at last in speaking and uttering words and falling on his knees with his arms raised and bursting into tears of repentance, says, "My Lord, my God." He cannot say anything else. Jesus forgives him. He lays his right hand on his head and replies, "Thomas, you believe now because you have seen, but blessed are those who will believe in me without seeing. Which reward shall I give to them if I have to reward you whose faith has been assisted by the power of seeing?" Then Jesus lays his arm on John's shoulder. He takes Peter by the hand and approaches the table. He sits at his place. They are now sitting as they were on Passover evening, but Jesus wants Thomas to sit next to John. "Eat, my friend," says Jesus. But no one is hungry anymore. Joy fills them, the joy of contemplation. So Jesus gathers together the little cheeses scattered on the table. He puts them on a plate, he cuts them and hands them out, and he gives the first bit to Thomas, laying it on a piece of bread and passing it behind John's shoulder. "You must not get so upset, my friends, when I appear to you. I am always your master, who has shared with you food and sleep, and who has chosen you because he loves you. I love you also now. You," he continues, "have been with me in the trials. You will be with me also in the glory. Do not lower your heads. On Sunday evening, when I came to you for the first time after my resurrection, I infused the Holy Spirit into you. May the Spirit also come to you who were not present. Do you not know that the infusion of the Spirit is like a baptism of fire? Because the Spirit is love, and love cancels sins. Therefore your sin of desertion while I was dying is forgiven." So I was reflecting, as I frequently do, at this amazing thing called seeing. That when you move through your day-to-day life, somehow we see. Why is that so amazing? I don't know. It's just like, how is it possible? How does it work? What is it? I often find myself in this state of wonder about what a human being is. And by the grace given to me, I've been able to have teachers who teach me a little bit more about what it means to be a soul and to have a body and to have consciousness. And there is an aspect to it that doesn't make any sense to the mind. People often say, "I can't wrap my mind around this." A lot of these things, that's not the goal. The goal is not to wrap your mind around it. Really, if you think about that, that's kind of a prideful expression, as though that's how I will be comfortable if my mind can make sense of it. But if you get really simple, you can't make sense of life. I used to think like everything gets plugged in, and that's how we associated getting power. But the human being doesn't have to be plugged in. Where does the heat come from? Where does sight come from? There's an aspect of it, it's too wonderful. It's too amazing. And so I looked up the word miracle, the etymology of the word miracle, and it's rooted in a Latin verb meaning to wonder. And if you can connect with this feeling of wonder, which most of us are seeking relatively frequently. When you go see some sort of piece of music or you go see any kind of a show, generally we're looking to be entertained. And a lot of times that entertainment comes when you reach this state of wonder. It's a beautiful state, a simple state, but there's definitely an emotional component to it when you sit there and you're just in awe. And I would like each one of us to go after that, to pursue that state of wonder. Because it's so much more fun to live that way than to sort of what a lot of life has become for a lot of people. You know, that horrible expression, life sucks and then you die. It's kind of funny in one way. It's really not true, unless that's what you're going to pursue. If you believe that, then probably that's what's going to happen. What's really beautiful about the passage here is that we have the validation that part of us really likes to see, likes to touch, likes to live by reason. This is one of the apostles. So we have to go, I guess that's going to be part of me for a big part of this journey. And yeah, there's something beautiful about when you can see it and touch it and know that it's real. We say that love wants to know. So when you are a being of love, there is a curiosity and a desire for that real validation, that real sense of, oh, this I know for sure. I think about the one track that I see many people pursue, which is a sort of a worried and nervous and anxious, over-planning, kind of mind-centric view of the world and of life. Sort of crossing their fingers that today is not a disaster kind of energy. Obviously there's reasons for that, because there's a certain roughness about humanity at this point. In other words, people are not all that always cooperative, and they could be a lot more generous, and yeah, we know there's problems. But there's another option, which is to pursue life to pursue the state of wonder through relinquishing the need to see and reason through everything. And trust that you will see at the right time. And in relinquishing the need to have all this validation for the existence of God, and when you're asked to do things or you're faced with difficulties, following a process that is based on faith will slowly but surely make your life wonder-filled. You will be full of wonder at how life actually works, the mystery of it. That you may be finding yourself walking down the street going, how is it even possible that I see? What is that? What is actually happening? You can't really make sense of it. You could scientifically break it down and go, well, the light is entering into the retina and is providing some sort of information that I have the ability to somehow make sense of. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Or there's just like, how is this even possible? How do colors exist? Could I even create a new color? Do I even have the capability to imagine creating a new plant or a new animal? You know who has that is kids have that. Kids want to believe, and they want this supernatural kind of unbelievable stuff. And they get so excited about the possibility of it. You know, maybe they want to have superhero powers, but they so badly want to believe. You know, and here we are cramming reason down their faces. Maybe a little bit too early. Okay, we don't want them to be naive. Santa Claus, I'm not sure about that one. It's fun for a while. But what about God as this mysterious presence that engulfs the universe? And by pursuing the life in God, you will draw miracles to you. You have to want them. They have to be in accord with the principles of love. And then you have to do your part. I think it always sounds a little more exciting to go like, oh, if I could just concentrate really hard and then something happens. It kind of does happen like that, actually. It's just not as instantaneous. And humans in our prideful need to have instant gratification go, there's no God. Just because when I want the very thing that I want, it doesn't show up. So in order to have this wonder-filled life, you have to surrender to the higher authority of God. And God orchestrated this whole mission for Jesus, and we're trying to figure it out. We on the path are very much trying to get right into the deepest parts of the symbology of it, and what is Jesus now, and how do we relate to Him, and how does this make our lives better? Things of God have that quality that you just keep working towards understanding. And they keep unfolding. And there's a new level of wonder as the next level is revealed to you. How joyful of a life is that? Yes, we have to go to buy our groceries, and we have to repair our cars, and we have, our kids get kind of unruly at times, and our employers can be a little difficult. Okay, that's part of life, and we're not going to obsess about that. We, those who meditate, have a process to deal with your emotions. We have the tools for that. But why don't we make our lives about the pursuit of wonder? Why don't we take this teaching to heart and go, I would like to be blessed as somebody who does not need to see in order to believe. Things that we believe, we hope are true. And so we're kind of in a state of waiting for them to be validated, for waiting for our beliefs to become true intrinsic knowledge. And even when our miracles are granted, sometimes I still hear that, well, I don't know if this is... That's a choice. It's a choice to be that way. I mean, you really can look around and go, how can there not be a God? I mean, the intelligence of life on earth is just wondrous. It's amazing. I mean, I know there's this new movie about, it's a documentary about animals in the landscape in China. I think it's a Disney featured movie. And I mean, just the preview, you're like, oh my God, it's so amazing. Just to see these animals and what they do and just see the landscape. I mean, it's so beautiful. And hopefully you still have that quality in you where you can see those things and just be in a state of awe. And not focus on, oh, this is just a Disney production to make money or blah, blah, blah. Some sort of cynical attitude. I mean, that's essentially, you've got Thomas going, no. He's just stubbornly going, I will not believe. He spent the last 3 years with these 9 other people. And they're going like, we had dinner with him. He was here, we touched him. And they're like, no, I'm not, no. You're making it up. It's some sort of a ghost. It's really sad when we become so rigid and so attached to our human perspective on things. But it's so beautiful when Jesus does show up and He doesn't really get upset at him. He sort of says, come, I'll give you what you want. This is what you need to believe, right? But keep in mind, you don't have to see to believe. I would have to imagine that Thomas is probably fairly transformed by that. Would there still be the remnants of him wanting to have his reason validated? Probably. That's kind of the mystery of this path, is like, wow, you can get these amazing life-altering things happen. And then a few months later, we're like, well, I know, but I'm not sure exactly what happened. I really want you to try this on. I really want you to try this pursuit of a wonder-filled life by believing in the supernatural and doing your part in order to experience it. And then when you experience it, like, imprint it upon your soul as amazing. And just over time, continually imprint those messages on your soul. When we were kids growing up, what got imprinted on our soul? Rough stuff. Maybe we weren't loved, we were neglected, we were made responsible for things that were not our responsibility. We were given messages that set us up to be somewhat cynical and somewhat reason-based. Now, we're children of God. So we're going to seek to invest our energy and imprint upon our souls the messages that create wonder. And then life is just, it's different. It's more fun, and it's awesome, actually.